Today I wanted to work on these two money trees, which are called Pachira Aquatica, and these have both grown quite a bit in the past. I've forgotten, probably about 9 or 10 months since I've had these. And so I wanted to repot them because these pots are getting way too small. And then I also probably wanted to do just a little bit of pruning. There was a really big storm that just came by yesterday, and it blew over these trees, and they actually broke off a few leaves. So I wanted to just take a closer look at their canopies to make sure that everything's kind of looking all right, and also just to kind of give it a little bit more of a better look. So we'll start. Anyway, so I put this in this pretty little fleur-de-lis pot. I thought it was really pretty. For me, it represented luxury, just like this tree. At least that's the mythology around it. Actually, it surprises me that people associate this tree with Asian culture because it's a native tree to Central America, and it's actually related to one of the most famous trees probably in Central America, the ceiba, which is really important for Guatemala. It's called their national tree. So this plant actually grows in a very similar fashion. And also, after seeing a lot more pictures of it in the wild, I wanted to give it a little bit more of a natural aesthetic. The first thing I want to do is to take this out of its pot and take a closer look at the roots. The interesting thing is that it actually has some roots growing at a higher root plane, which is going to be essential to growing the really big buttress root system that this tree normally has in nature. This is quite lovely. Just looking really closely at some of these roots, they're really tuberous actually, which is really encouraging because that means that this will actually grow a really thick root base really quickly. I think this has only been 1 year. I can imagine what it would be in 5 years. So it looks like there were some roots even growing into the growing hole. This was one of those pots where the bottom is completely attached to the top, so I couldn't actually look under it to see if there was anything. So now that we have the soil pretty much cleaned off of the roots, it's very interesting to kind of see what's going on. So like right here, for example, we've got this really fat root that's getting even fatter. And here's a crossing root. So I'm going to do just a little bit of root pruning. The biggest thing that I want to get rid of are these tap roots though. There are two roots that just go straight down into the bottom. And unfortunately, I think some of these roots actually broke off when I was teasing them out. Which is actually a reason why you don't want to use just pure compost when you're dealing with bonsai, especially because you can actually break a lot of roots just in the process of repotting. So that's something to be careful of. It's also nice to see that most of these roots are actually growing on the same plane. So I'll be able to use them not only to anchor the tree down in the pot, but it'll also just be just a good start for a radial root spread. The next interesting thing is that this is what was growing underground under the pot. And it looks like it didn't get that much of a chance to develop, and I think that was partially because of the angle that was in the pot. This was basically up against the corner of the pot, so that probably affected it in this way to make it bulge. The good thing is I've got a few roots growing in this direction though, so if I encourage these to grow especially, they should be able to over time help fill this whole trunk out. And what I'm hoping to do is still keep the soil level pretty much the same where it was beforehand, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically keep these bottom ones to anchor the tree in, and then afterwards make sure that all of these are underground so that way they can really develop into thicker roots. And then over time I can expose them more and more, and hopefully that'll help develop this buttressed root system. So I'm going to pot this up in this fairly large pot, and the reason is because I really want it to grow. And what I'm going to do is also do kind of an experimentation with soil. What I'm hoping to do is kind of mix up two big soil components for different reasons. So this is a bonsai mix with akadama, pumice, lava rock, and a little bit of turfus as well. And it's usually what I'll use for my bonsai trees. But what I wanted to do is to add some compost as well, partly because I want to stretch this amount of soil because I don't have that much, but also because I want to have a bit more moisture in the pot itself. And I know I'm doing successfully with a different tree that's basically growing in pure akadama, and it has some a pot of water under it, and it's growing fairly well. But what I wanted to do with this was basically have some compost, or just a really basic potting mix for houseplants in there, just to see if I can actually add a little bit more moisture retention into this. These trees usually grow in the swamps, so it's easier if I actually have something that gives it more moisture retention. Most important thing will be under this, basically where most of the roots are going to be. I want to make sure that there is still a bit of aeration going on, because as we just saw with pure compost, the roots can get a little bit messed up. I'm going to go ahead and try to tie this tree down. Hopefully the leaf doesn't cover up the camera lens there. So it was one down, one to go. Here's the other money tree. I had to rinse off the roots really quickly because I'm doing this indoors, and one of the problems that I have a lot of in my garden in general are ants, and so they take up residence in a lot of my pots, and this unfortunately was one of them that had a ton of ants in it. So I had to wash them out before they became a big nuisance here. So just like I did with my last one, I think I'm going to keep these multiple root planes. I guess I should probably prune these back a little bit, the upper ones, just so that way they're not taking too much energy away from the bottom roots. But again, I think that this can be a really good way to get started on a buttressed root system. It'll take a really long time to really get it going, but I think just by getting it started at least in the right direction, I can actually probably get a boost on it. Now my concept is basically the same, which is to get a bit more compost into this just to help retain more moisture. Now, one of the last things I want to do is to actually probably prune back just a little bit of a canopy so we can encourage it to hopefully branch. And if it doesn't branch, then at the very least I can just get just a little bit of better growth. Right now the growth is really concentrated right here in this one little spot, so the nodes are getting really close together, and it would be nice if there could actually be a branch coming along. Now this tree I think will eventually just have kind of a straight spreading canopy, and most of the interest will be lower in the trunk. But what I'm hoping to do, at least for now, is just kind of make sure that it's kind of growing in a really healthy manner. I'm gonna try to prune it back just to what I think are the healthiest looking leaves. There, just like that. And hopefully I can get some back budding. And if not that, then it'll just continue to grow upwards, which is good too, because then it can thicken up this trunk. So now for this tree, what I think I'll do is I'll probably, first of all, I need to prune off a few of these leaves that got bent because they fell over in a storm. And then the other thing is that I'll just want to make sure that I kind of get this growing in a decent pattern at least. Now this, fortunately right now, it actually does have 2 branches, which we'll see if I can continue to develop them. But the unfortunate thing is it looks like when this fell over, it actually fell over on a branch, so I'm not sure if this is going to survive. So I'll probably need to figure something out with that. But I want to take away just some of these leaves that are not doing so well. I'm going to leave it like this then. So it's cut back to some leaves. This part I'm just going to try to see if it'll grow back. I had a little bit of luck with a green branch that actually just fixed itself, so who knows, maybe this one will fix itself as well. But other than that, if it dies off, then at least I'll be able to just continue to let this thicken up this trunk and get a nicer root base. So this is actually a tree that I've been sort of growing as an indoor bonsai, which I know is a big no-no, especially because I've got a lot of space outdoors anyways. But one of my concerns was just that this tree was very lopsided. I guess I can introduce it though. So this is also a Pachira Aquatica, a money plant. And usually when you see them in stores, you'll kind of see them in 2 different ways. One way is braided, with a braided trunk. Usually there'll be 5 trees that are braided together, just because that's a very significant number in Asian cultures. And then the other way is this way, which I think kind of plays into people's fascination with either something that is kind of comedically fat, because this is just a huge a trunk cutting of a bigger tree, or it basically resembles a little bit more like a palm tree, especially when it's starting out. So anyways, I've been trying to let this grow out as much as possible, and I mostly grew it indoors because of the fact that it was very lopsided. The root system was basically just like flush with the tree, so there really wasn't anything to support the tree. And it gets really windy outside, and I didn't really have another pot for this plant, so I actually put it in this sort of Vietnamese style square bonsai pot here, and it's been growing quite well. But I do have this little contraption set up to kind of hold the tree in place as it develops roots kind of to support itself. Now I know that it being indoors and not really being subjected to that many of the elements, it probably won't really develop much in terms of stabilizing roots, but I think that I'll slowly transition this to grow outdoors as well, because I think it'll grow even faster. The other thing that I really liked about this plant in particular, though, is that it actually has a number of branches. And so today I want to just do a little bit of branch selection, just kind of prune this all back, because these branches are getting a bit long. And I would like to see if I can eventually kind of have this into a more spreading canopy. Of course, the trunk is a little bit small for the size of leaves that eventually grow on this tree. So it might not be the best subject for bonsai, but I do want to give it a try at least. Okay, so basically what I did was I took away some branches. There were two spots where there were multiple branches growing off of the same spot. So I selected the stronger of the two branches that were there, and that was just to kind of ensure that this plant can really focus its energy on those branches. And then the next thing that I did was just a bit of directional pruning. Again, I don't really know how this plant will react to this kind of pruning. So what I did was I just gave it some directional pruning to kind of see if I can get hopefully at least one more shoot, if not two, growing in different directions from these. And if the theory is correct, then this will also help the plant grow a little bit more outward rather than upwards, so that way we can develop a better canopy.